The Treasury hit up against the debt ceiling and now is maneuvering around using extraordinary measures to prevent a default on our debt. Now, we believe, most people believe, that these extraordinary measures will be good until some point in June. So in June, and as we get towards June, there will be more drama.
Hey guys, welcome back to Library of Wealth. Today we have the CEO of ARK Invest, Cathie Wood, discussing the current state of the market, as well as what we can expect next from the Fed and the debt ceiling of the US Treasury. As it stands, the Treasury is utilizing extraordinary measures to forego defaulting on debt, which is projected to last until June. Wood notes that Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has been growing increasingly uncomfortable with the current monetary policy. This is due to two former Fed advisors who once held an opposing view on inflation, now expressing concern that the policy may have gone too far. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has reversed her previous transitory stance on inflation and now believes that even if inflation is contained, businesses will still face a challenging economic environment with low growth and persistent inflation. Let's get right into the latest interview with Cathie Wood as she discusses what's next for the economy and the impact the Fed is now having on the market. If you enjoy the content we do here, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into the video.
Now, a couple of other things happened in the last week to give us the sense that Chairman Powell is getting a little more uncomfortable with the Fed's position. One is that two advisors, or we believe that these individuals advise the Fed, who used to be on the warpath against inflation, have changed their tune a bit. Not that they think letting inflation go is what we should do, but I think they're becoming a bit fearful that that Fed policy might have gone too far after really encouraging the Fed to tighten up. One is Janet Yellen, who is the current Treasury Secretary, and you'll remember the word transitory. She had used transitory as inflation was picking up, and then in quite a dramatic moment, she apologized for using the word transitory, said she was mistaken. This was sometime last year, and really almost encouraged the Fed to act as aggressively as possible. And that's when we started getting the sense that 75 basis points was going to be the norm, not the exception. Well, she's changed her tune, and in this last week, she said something like, once we're through this inflation and we've got it under control, and we seem to be doing that, we're probably going to be facing an environment where inflation and growth are very, very low and problematic for businesses. Another person who has changed his tune fairly dramatically is Larry Summers, who was a former Treasury Secretary. And he was cheering the Fed on last year as it was hiking rates 75 basis points at a time. And he was saying, no, we're going to have to go to 6, 7, 8% to get this inflation under control. And now he's saying, whoa, 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 whoa. Ahead of the Fed meeting, he said, don't suggest what you're going to do next. Let's sort of wait and see. Of course, the Fed did go up 25 basis points, and I think that's because it had primed us to expect 25 basis points. But now he's got two advisors who I think were very influential last year, who are basically saying, wait a minute. In fact, after today's employment report, which we'll get into in a minute, Larry Summers said, whoa, 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 whoa. I actually think that businesses are going to feel like Wile E. Coyote. They're still hiring like crazy as activity is falling. So, they may be looking over the cliff. So, again, very, very interesting. And then the other, I think, most important point coming out of the Q&A after the FOMC decision, so the Federal Open Market Committee decision to raise rates 25 basis points, was Chairman Powell's answer to the question, do you believe we're in a wage price spiral? Lyle Brainerd, another Fed member, does not believe that. And Chairman Powell said, I agree with Lyle Brainerd. Now, that was a very big admission that we are not in a 70s style inflation, which is what they were fighting last year. And again, today, the employment report corroborated this notion that we're not in a wage price spiral.
Economist Larry Summers, who previously supported rate hikes, is now cautioning against further monetary policy decisions. Jerome Powell concurs with Fed members who believe that the current situation is not reminiscent of the 1970s-style inflation, as evidenced by the recent employment report. Despite a rise in income in January, the job layoff rate increased by 400% in the same period. The recent earnings reports from major corporations like Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and JP Morgan reflect significant weaknesses. The advertising industry has also been impacted by the economic downturn, which began last year.
Income is probably, in the month of January, up in 1 month's time. It's somewhere between 1.5% and 2%. That's just a sequential increase. So that's, 15% plus at an annualized rate. So that's a boom. It doesn't square with what we're seeing out there elsewhere. We're seeing the challenger job layoff rate up 400% plus in the month of January. We are hearing, the headlines are screaming layoffs. Listening to earnings reports over these last few weeks, one layoff announced after another, or hiring freezes at best. We're seeing the banks take reserves for bad debt. Big increases, like billions, $1.5 billion, I think, for JP Morgan. There were a number of billion-dollar increases. Just in the last few days, we saw reports from Amazon and Alphabet, Meta, Apple, Microsoft, and all of them were showing serious weakness. And, advertising is one of the most discretionary of expenses. That actually started weakening dramatically nearly a year ago. And as you know, we believe we were in a recession last year. And sure, we've gotten a bit of a reprieve. But if you look at what happened in the fourth quarter, the GDP statistics, we did get those the preliminaries. Inventory accumulation accelerated in the fourth quarter. And we thought that retailers were discounting so heavily because they were trying to clear shelves. Well, consumption, if you look at the retail sales reports, consumption looked terrible. Now, services bolstered consumption in the GDP reports, but goods consumption was very weak. So what we're seeing from this employment report does not square with reality.
Despite a brief improvement, the final GDP statistics showed weakness in retail sales, particularly in goods consumption, which contradicts the employment report. Wood believes that these developments indicate a disconnect between headline-making layoffs and the actual state of the economy. What do you think about Cathie Wood's outlook for the economy in 2023, as well as the conflicting reports coming out in recent weeks? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.